Hello, my dear friends. How are you? So today we are going to discuss a very important topic of Negotiable Instruments Act. Let us start this very chapter, right, with this Negotiable Instruments Act. We have basically three types of negotiable instruments. One is check, the other one is bills of exchange, and the other one is promissory note. So today we are going to discuss about check, and check is basically an instrument which is being used for the payments, right? When we don't want to make payment in cash and we want to make payments via bank, this instrument is being used, right? Generally, when we are paying big amounts, this is a safest thing, right? And you know that paying in cash may be risky as well. So when you want to transfer through bank, you want to make via payment via check, what can be done? Let us see that process and let us discuss about the check first, right? So if you have opened an account with a bank, what happens? You deposit money in your bank account, say yes or no. So for example, you have deposited rupees 1 lakh in your bank account and your bank is State Bank of India, correct? Now you have deposited money in State Bank of India. You have opened an account with State Bank of India, and in your account, for example, you have deposited rupees 1 lakh, and that rupees 1 lakh is being deposited. If you want to make payment out of that, how can you do that? For that, this instrument is being used, and that check is given to you. So whenever you want to make payment, you will mention the name of the person to whom you want to make payment, number one, the date on which you are making this check and paying that amount, and you will sign that. Bank has already taken your signature. They will match your signature which are given to them with this particular signature which you have actually made on your check. When the check is given to the bank, the moment they see that these signatures are matching, everything is given, proper date is given, the name is given, amount is matching with words as well, they will transfer this amount to that particular account to whom you have said to be transferred. So you told them that please transfer this amount to this very person. They will transfer the amount to this very account. Very, very, very simple. So this is how the money is being transferred from one account to another. Correct? So for example, we have a look at this clearing process. There is Miss Ritu, right? She has opened an account, for example, with SBI, and rupees 1 lakh is being deposited. Now she wants to make payment to Mr. J, only rupees 5,000. She gives a check to Mr. J. Now Jay will go to his bank where he has opened his own account. For example, he has opened an account with Punjab National Bank. He gives this very check to PNB. Now PNB will scan this very check and send that scanned figure via RBI's clearinghouse where all the matching will be done, and they will tell SBI that one check has come. They will see the check, and SBI will see that this check is being drawn by Miss Ritu. She has an account with us and she has already deposited rupees 1 lakh with us. Now she has asked us, she has given an order, she has issued this check of rupees 5,000, and after checking that very check, that signatures are matching, date is proper, and amount is already there in her account. After verifying all the details, this SBI will deduct rupees 5,000 from Ritu's account and transfer that rupees 5,000 to PNB. Now PNB has taken this money. Now they will add this amount to Jay's account. So here PNB is going to plus add increase this rupees 5,000 in Mr. Jay's account. So this is what is known as the clearing process. This is what is the system. Now the person who has transferred this money, right, that is Miss Ritu. She has drawn a particular negotiable instrument which is known as check. So the person who draws that very check is known as drawer of the check. So here Miss Ritu is a drawer of the check. Miss Ritu is a drawer of a check. She drawn that very check. By drawing this, she has given an order to SBI. She has given an order to SBI that please deduct this rupees 5,000 from my account and give to Mr. Jay via bank, right? So she is basically the payer. Out of her account only, SBI is transferring this amount, correct? So who is drawer of the check? Who has drawn? Who has given the order? Ritu. To whom this order was given? This order was given to SBI. So what order was given? Please deduct this rupees 5,000 from my account and pay to Mr. Jay via his bank. So here the check was drawn on SBI. That is why SBI is also known as drawee of the check. So when she drawn this very check, she mentioned that I am the payer. I am paying this amount via my paying bank. So this SBI is a paying bank also. So payer is Ritu. She is paying through her bank. So paying bank is SBI. Now Ritu is the payer who is the payee. To whom account this amount is being transferred? To whom account? This is being transferred to Mr. Jay. So Mr. Jay is known as payee of the check. He is getting the amount. He is payee of the check. Right? Now, when we talk about Punjab National Bank, where Jay has opened his account, my dear friends, what PNB is doing? PNB is actually presenting that check to this particular bank, this paying bank. That is why, because PNB is presenting that very check, it is known as presenting bank. So you have understood the clearing process. Now you know the terms as well. Who is the drawer of the check? The person who is paying the amount. That is Ritu. Who is payee of the check? Who is getting? That means Jay is getting that amount. Now who is drawee of the check? To whom the order was given? Order to pay. The order was given to SBI. Why the order was given to SBI? Because Ritu has already deposited rupees 1 lakh with SBI and she ordered that out of my rupees 1 lakh, 5,000 must be given to Jay. Correct? So this was an order which was given by this drawer of check who has deposited money with SBI. Now, for example, if Ritu does not have any money in her account, what will happen in that case? For example, there is no money and she has given a check of rupees 5,000. Now this check goes to Mr. Jay. Jay deposits that check in the bank. Bank scans that copy and send it to SBI and SBI says that Mr. Bank, Mr. PNB, there is no money in her account. Ritu's account is blank. There is no money. So how can we pay? That is why in that particular case, this drawee bank, this drawee of a check, this SBI will dishonor the check. The moment it pays the amount, it is known as honoring the check. If SBI says that we can't honor it because the drawee, Miss Ritu, does not have any money in her account and she has given money to you, she has given check to you, we can't pay this. Now Jay will say that, Miss Ritu, you gave me this very check, but you didn't have any money in your account. Why did you do that? So, my dear friends, in this particular case, what Mr. Jay can do, this is the question. So, Negotiable Instruments Act says that there are cases where there is a possibility that there is dishonor of a check due to insufficiency of funds in the account. There were no sufficient funds in a particular account, but the holder of that account issues a check, right? So somebody, for example, he has issued a check of rupees 1 lakh, but he has only 20,000 rupees in his bank account. Then what will happen? Can the bank honor this very check? Bank will not honor. He will banker will say that you have only 20,000 rupees in your account and you have issued a check of rupees 1 lakh. How can we honor this? We are not going to honor this. So when a check, where a check drawn by a person on an account maintained by him with a banker for payment of any amount of money to another person. So here, for example, we talk about our example, any check drawn by a person. In our example, this person was Miss Ritu on an account maintained by him or her. In our case, banker was SBI, correct? She maintained an account with SBI for payment of any amount. Amount of what? Amount of rupees 5,000 to another person. Who was another person? Another person was Jay. From out of that account for the discharge is returned by the bank unpaid. Now this amount is returned unpaid by the bank. Who has returned this? SBI has returned this. Because what? Because of the amount of money standing to the credit of that account is insufficient to honor the check. So I gave you example that if the check of rupees 1 lakh is issued and the amount in the bank is rupees 20,000 only, bank is not going to honor the check due to insufficiency of funds. Now what can be done? Here such person shall be deemed to have committed an offense. So person who did not have money in the account, still he issued a check and the check is being dishonored by the bank. In that particular case, punishment can be given. And punishment may be imprisonment, which may be extended to 2 years, or with a fine which may be twice, which may extend to twice. So first one was imprisonment, second one is fine, which may be extended to twice of the amount of the check, or both. It all depends upon the court what decision is made by them, right? So this is the point. But if somebody wants to file a suit, then which steps must be followed? Let us check that. Point number one, as I told you earlier also, that a check's validity is only 3 months, right? So for example, you get a check and on that 1st January 2025 is written. So this check has only 3 months validity. After the 3 months validity is over, that check becomes a stale check. So if you get a check from someone, you will have to deposit it within 3 months. Otherwise, you will not be able to get money, right, against that check. Now, for example, if you want to apply the above provisions, then for that following conditions must be satisfied. Number one, presentment of the check, that Mr. J must be presenting this very check within how much time? He will have to deposit this check with his bank within 3 months. Within 3 months. So this is the validity of the check, correct? So the check has been presented to the bank within a period of 3 months from the date on which it is drawn, or within the period of its validity, whichever is earlier, whatever is written there. Point number one. Point number two. For example, this very payee, who was the payee? Payee was Mr. J. So if he doesn't get money in his account, he will have to actually follow certain procedure. He will have to talk to this drawer of the check. So this payee of the check will talk to this Mr. Drawer or Miss Drawer who is there in this particular case. The payee makes a demand for the payment of the said amount of money by giving notice in writing. So what he will do? He will have to give notice. He will have to give notice to whom? He will have to give notice to Ritu, the person who has drawn the check. Is that very clear? So sorry. He will give a notice for how many days? Let us check. So the payee makes a demand for the payment of the said amount of money by giving notice in writing. So point number one is that notice must be given in writing. This notice must be given in writing. Correct? In writing, he will write within 30 days. Notice in writing. Notice in writing. To whom? To the drawer of the check. Who is the drawer of the check? Notice in writing must be given by the payee. Who is the payee? Mr. J. Notice in writing will be given to the drawer of the check. Who is the drawer of the check? Drawer is Ritu. Within 30 days of the receipt of information by him from the bank, who will inform him? Punjab National Bank. His bank will inform him that the check which was given by you has got dishonored because of insufficiency of funds. Now please take your steps. Mr. J, go and write a notice to the drawer of the check, Miss Ritu. Now he will say that your check is returned unpaid. It is dishonored. Within 30 days, he will write to Ritu. Now the drawer of the dishonored check, if he fails to make the payment within 15 days, now in our particular case, if Ritu makes payment within 15 days from the receipt of notice, then it's okay, there is no problem. But even after getting this written notice, if within 15 days of getting that notice, she does not pay the amount, in that case, Mr. J can file a suit and recover money. Is that very, very clear? And if she does not give, what punishment can be given? Imprisonment up to 2 years. Up to 2 years. And she may have to pay the fine, which may be twice the amount of the check or both, right? So it all depends upon the gravity of the case. In every case, this imprisonment is not given, right? So this is the procedure. First of all, if the check is dishonored, the payee, the payee who has got the check, Mr. J, he will go to the drawer of the check, that is Ritu, and inform via a written mail or written letter that your check is being dishonored, please pay the amount. Now she will have to pay, the drawer will have to pay within 15 days of getting that notice, right? If she does not pay, then that procedure can be followed against her. So this is section 138. This is the most important thing which may be there in your examination. You will see this very question, right? This is very, very important question. Now, there are two particular cases. There are two particular sections which are being added. One of them is section 143A. Now, for example, case is going on, and you know that when a case is filed, it goes for a long period of time. Now, for example, Mr. J filed a suit against Ritu. Now, this case may run for a period of 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. Correct? Now, if Ritu says that I am not guilty, court will ask first, are you guilty or not? She says that I'm not guilty. Right? The moment she says that I'm not guilty, the drawer of the check says I'm not guilty, that means he or she must have some reason. Now the court will say, okay, no problem. You say that you are not guilty, we accept it for the time being. Before we finalize the case, you are pleading that you are not guilty, but you will have to pay interim compensation to the complainant. So section 143A was added because a lot of people actually earlier made payment via check and that check got dishonored, and that case actually went on for 2 years, 3 years. And for those 2-3 years, if that very payee is on the right side, his time is lost. Because the decision takes time, that is why court allows that accused should pay an interim compensation to the complainant immediately. In all those cases where dishonor of check is there, you pay interim compensation in the beginning. Now the trial is going on, the case is going on. This provision applies when the accused pleads not guilty. So here Ritu says I am not guilty, I don't have any, I have not done any crime, so I am not guilty, I am right on my side. She must have some reason. Court says that okay, pay interim compensation, then we'll discuss. Now, in simple terms, when someone is accused of issuing a check that bounces, that means dishonors, and they claim that they are not guilty, the court can still direct them to pay some compensation upfront. This compensation can be up to 20% of the check. So for example, check was of rupees 1 lakh, then 20% of the check amount will be given in advance. To whom? 20% amount will be given to the complainant. So here in this case, for example, check was of rupees 1 lakh. Jay has said that this check is being dishonored. So court will ask Ritu to pay 20,000 upfront as interim compensation, and they will say that by the time we are arriving at some decision, pay this amount upfront. The idea behind this rule is to provide some financial relief to the person who filed the complaint, that is payee of the check. In our case, payee of the check was Jay. While the case is being heard, please get this amount. If the accused is later found not guilty, for example, later it is found that Ritu was not guilty, they can get the compensation amount refunded. She will get that amount, 20,000 rupees, which was given by her as interim compensation, she will get back. However, if they are found guilty, this amount will be deducted from the final penalty or fine, because 20,000 is being already paid. So for example, while finalizing the penalty amount or whatever amount is to be given to Jay, court will say that Ritu, you are guilty here, you are proven guilty. Now you pay this much amount, and because you have already paid some interim compensation earlier, rupees 20,000, you deduct that amount, pay the remaining. This provision is helping to reduce the delay and ensuring that complainants are not suffering long financial losses while the trial outcome is there, while the court decides that particular case, right? So this is being added, and section 143 talks about that interim compensation. Now, for example, this case is being decided by a lower court. Now Ritu says I am still not guilty, I am going to appeal against this decision to the higher court. Now she goes to higher court that I am not going to pay this amount. Court has said, for example, pay rupees 1,20,000. The amount of check was rupees 1 lakh. court has actually asked me to pay 20,000 penalty also. In total, I had to pay. I am required to pay 1,20,000. Out of that, interim compensation of rupees 20,000 is already being paid by me. But I say that I am right and I want to appeal to a higher court. Now she chooses to appeal against that decision. To appeal against that decision given by the lower court. That I am right and I am filing this appeal against the conviction. So that drawer, that means in our case, Ritu, she is filing an appeal that whatever decision is being taken, I am not satisfied with that. Now I am appealing. Now appellate court will say, okay, we are actually hearing your appeal. But before you come here, you will have to deposit some amount as interim compensation, right? So again, this will be minimum 20%. This will be minimum 20%. Now again, 20% amount. 20% amount was asked to be paid by the lower court. Here also, minimum 20% amount can be asked to pay to Mr. Jai. So before the appeal by the drawer, that is by Ms. Ritu, is heard by the appellate court will say, we will hear your appeal, but before we start, you will have to pay rupees 20,000, for example, or 30,000 or 40,000, whatever amount is being decided by the appellate court. Then we will hear your complaint. He will hear your appeal. Again, earlier also, this was seen that by appealing to the higher court, again this drawer was taking so much time. So to protect that payee, this section was introduced, right? So we are hearing your appeal. For example, you win this appeal. In that case, whatever amount you have paid till now, for example, 20,000 earlier you paid, again we asked you to pay minimum 20,000, for example. So minimum 20% of rupees 1,20,000. So 20 plus 20, 40 you have already paid. You please get it back. You won the case, you won the appeal. Now if she is proven guilty here also, now again the final hearing by this appellate court, that will happen and they will say that total amount this should be paid, and whatever amount you have paid as interim compensation earlier, reduce that amount and pay the remaining one. So this is the whole concept of dishonor of a check, right? So section 138, that is very, very important, which we have discussed, right? So first of all, we have discussed what is a check. Then what is the clearing process? In general, we saw in this example. Then we discussed about the terminology which is being used. What is the drawer of the check? What is the payee of the check? Which bank is a presenting bank or drawee bank? Then after that, we discussed if this check gets dishonored, what can happen? We discussed this process. And to get this, to file this case, this process must have been followed. 30 days notice in writing. Then if within 15 days the payment is not being made, then the case is filed. And if the case is filed, what court can say about the interim compensation that we have discussed in the trial court? And if the drawer goes to appellate authority, appellate court, higher court, in that case, what interim compensation they can ask for, right? This is what is being discussed in this particular case, and this is the most important question in your examination. I am going to share this whole PPT with you along with this particular video. My dear friends, please do it. We'll discuss in the next class something more important. Till then, take care, bye bye, and God bless you. Thank you.